Thank you. Let's be seated. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's start with the anthem, the national Namibian anthem, and then we go to the AU in that order. Let's be seated. Good morning, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, the Acting ED, the Special Advisor, Deputy Executive Directors, Deputy Director, all staff members. My job is to facilitate the program. Madam Ndiakopi, the Acting ED, she's the one who will do the welcoming address. But there is a slight amendment on the program. Number 2, it will be the welcoming remarks, which will be done by the Acting ED, and then she will come in also at the same time to introduce the minister. So I don't know, maybe Acting ED, you will also want to introduce your Deputy Executive Directors, the directors, since this is the first gathering, if I'm not mistaken. So the chance is yours, you will be able to do that. And then the last one, that will be, we'll have, after the session, we'll have refreshments. It's just water and some cool drinks, maybe snacks, no meals. Thank you so much.
Can you tell people to move and occupy this space and to maintain social distancing?
Yes. Please move a bit closer, so that those who are coming in, they will find a maneuver to sit in, social distance too. I don't know. Early this morning, there was a WhatsApp message that was being given to some staff members. I don't know whether it was sabotage or whatever. Someone who was trying to say the meeting has been cancelled. Seriously, we were not supposed to do that. Whoever the source is, that was improper. We were supposed to have, waited from the right source to give that information. I think that's why the attendance is not that good. Thank you so much. Acting ED, the welcoming remarks.
Thank you very much, Director of Proceedings. Colleagues, before I start, if you are sitting next to each other, can you just allow Tateni Kondomeme financial advice. Just allow one seat between. COVID is serious, and we have witnessed that we all in one way or another have lost someone. In that corner up there, 3 people are just sitting. Thank you very much. Our Director of Proceedings, Mr. Matongela, Honorable Carl Helmanus Gustav SCHLETTWEIN, our Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, Honorable Anna Shiweda, our Deputy Minister, our Deputy Executive Directors, Deputy Directors, Chiefs, Seniors, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and very importantly, members of the media. A very good morning to you. I was just tasked now and requested to introduce the management. It's very important since we are really meeting for the very first time in this big gathering. Ms. Kambinda Tatependa, I think, is not here. Maybe you start, followed by Mr. Ndala if he's in, and then the directors. Just introduce yourself to the colleagues in a quick fashion and telling them which department or directorate you are. Mike.
I thought I was audible enough. I'm not very audible. Anybody who didn't get me there? You got me? Wow. You got me? Yes. Oh, thank you. I'm the loudest.
Give it to the next.
Oh, Maria, you need the mic. Eh? The mic is staying with me now. Colleagues.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, colleagues. My name is Maria Amakali. I am the acting head of the Department of Water Affairs.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, colleagues. My name is Alfred Sikopo. I'm the Director for Resettlement and Regional Program Implementation. Thank you.
Good morning, Comrade Minister, Comrade Deputy Minister, Comrade Acting ED, colleagues. My name is Elia Ngurare. I'm Director for Water Supply and Sanitation Coordination.
Good morning, Honorable Minister and Honorable Deputy Minister. Good morning, Acting ED. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Albertina Shilongo. I'm the Director of Veterinary Service.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, and Comrade Acting ED. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Mesach Mulunga. I'm the Director of Planning and Business Development. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, Acting ED, and good morning to all of you colleagues. My name is Diripunya Chanyangana. I'm the Surveyor General, Director of Survey and Mapping.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, and Acting ED. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Pieter Canisius Nangolo. I'm overseeing activities related to land reform, Directorate Land Reform.
Good morning, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, Comrade AD, colleagues. My name is Rudolf Manusep. I am the Valuer General at the Directorate of Valuation and Estate Management.
Thank you. I would like also to introduce the special advisor to the Minister, Madam Priska Mandimika.
Morning, Honorable Minister. Morning, Honorable Deputy Minister. Morning, Acting ED. Morning, colleagues. My name is Priska Mandimika. I work in the Office of the Minister, advising him on land issues. Thank you.
Thank you. I also note that we have our SOEs here. Any of them present? Only one? Where's me? Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Minister. Good morning, Honorable Deputy Minister. Good morning, Acting Executive Director. And good morning, staff members of the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. I'm Isaac Nathinge. I represent the Meat Corporation of Namibia. And he hereby would like to extend the apology for the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Mwilima Mushokabanji. I thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. We all know that Agriculture Ministry, we are over 3,000, and we expected to be here, all of us that are in Windhoek, apart from those who are giving essential services. And please make sure that you have registered yourself, because it's just a known fact that when you are not on duty, you get unpaid leave. It is therefore my great pleasure for me to welcome you to this staff meeting, the very first one this new year 2022. Where we have our leadership to talk to us and deliver their expectation to all of us. This meeting is very important, and especially at the beginning of the year, where we can kickstart our assignment knowing what is exactly expected from us and knowing in which direction we are heading in order to achieve the targets set in our plans and new assignments. We therefore looking forward with great anticipation to the directives from our Honorable Minister, which I have no doubt will greatly enrich our work motives, our work ethics, and outcome of this meeting, and for which I would like to thank the visionary leadership of Comrade SCHLETTWEIN well in advance. I wish to conclude my remarks by once again welcoming you all to this meeting, and now take this opportunity to introduce to you the main key speaker. In 2020, His Excellency Dr. Hage Gottfried Geinkop merged the two ministries, the former Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Forestry, to the ministry with the Ministry of Land Reform, Miners Forestry. And he saw it fit that Honorable Calle SCHLETTWEIN be the one to take this ministry with crucial and very important sector forward. These are agriculture, water, and land, which we all know we cannot do without. And indeed, we agree with His Excellency's decision because from day one, he have been on the ground, running, consulting stakeholders and implementing his mandate. So far, he have covered Karas, Hardap, Zambezi, Kavango West, Kavango East, Ohangwena, Oshikoto, Oshana, Erongo, and Domsati regions. He will continue his consultations with Kunene region in the second week of February. He could not meet all or consult all other regions because he have to go back to some of the regions due to, he visited before due to, of course, outbreaks of natural disasters. The remaining regions he planned to continue consulting this year. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, be on your feet to welcome on the podium the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. Honorable Minister, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. The Director of Proceedings, thank you very much for restarting the meeting. Honorable Deputy Minister, Comrade Anna Shiweda, she has been with the ministry, I want to say, ever since, so thank you very much for staying with us. We have a new face at the helm of the administration. It is the Acting Executive Director, Comrade Njakupi Itwabata. I think we can welcome her. She is and has been one of us in the land side. She is now the head of the whole ministry. So can I invite you to welcome Comrade Njakupi. The Deputy Executive Directors, I think we have also a new appointment. Madam Kambinda has been confirmed as the Deputy Executive Director for Agriculture. Congratulations. Don't have to welcome you. You know, you have been just there. Thank you very much. Madam Amakali, you are still in an acting position. The others are not new, but just as much, very much welcomed to this meeting. Also, so the directors and the deputy directors, and of course the staff. We had also invited the board chairs and CEOs of our state-owned enterprises that are with agriculture, that is NamWater, the Agronomic Board, and the Meat Board, and Meatco has come. If you are here, welcome. Last but not least, the members of the media, we had been engaging all year. Thank you for attending this staff meeting. We believe that what we share with the staff is also important to be conveyed to the public at large, and you are fulfilling that job for us. So welcome to the media. Let me say that I'm very pleased to be able to be back at work, and I hope you had all a nice Christmas. We had a very tough year. COVID, the pandemic and its consequences were very severe. And at first I want to share my heartfelt sympathies and extend to the families our condolences and to their friends of those who lost family members that are part of the agricultural family There were a number of them that passed on because of COVID, but also for other reasons. So let us just stand up and observe a minute of silence for all those that have passed. Thank you. Not only did COVID rob us of our staff members, our friends and family members, it also severely impacted on the economy. And I believe when we see the outcome of the national accounts for 2020 and 2021, we should not be surprised to be met with negative numbers. The economy took a severe blow. Agriculture had its own role, and I'm coming to it a little bit later in my statement. Comrade Acting Executive Director, thank you and for your kind welcoming remarks, and thank you all for your attendance physically and virtually across all the regions. We have made a virtual connection to this meeting possible, and I also want to therefore welcome those that see us but are not with us, and that hear us but that will find it difficult to participate. Thank you very much. As we engage here now, let me take this opportunity to express my appreciation for your commitment as management and staff to the overall achievements to our sets of goals and targets. As the Acting Executive Director has said, our staff component in Windhoek is just over 800. We are here, if I guess, maybe 80 or so. So 10% found it necessary to come. But I also must acknowledge that there is difficulty with parking, difficulty with coming here. So I hope the others that are not here physically find the time to join us virtually. You are not left out. We tried to get the Nampower Center next to us so that we could walk over, but it didn't work out. So my apologies for this rather small venue. But thank you for coming. I believe these staff meetings are important. It gives us, the Deputy Minister and myself and the top management, a chance to see you, to talk to you about what we have achieved, what we want to achieve, and it will give you a chance to ask some questions, if you have some, in the later part of the program, so that we stay in contact. I think it is important that we do that at least twice a year, as it is actually said in our performance agreement that we have with His Excellency the President. We must meet our staff regularly. You will also have heard that His Excellency President Geingob has declared this year as the year of re-imaging. I believe the essence of this clarion call to us is to envision and bring about a Namibia where basic needs for all are met, and basic services such as the provision of clean drinking water, food self-sufficiency and security is attained, and where the economic opportunities in agriculture and the land sector are equalized. It is that image of an equalized society that is, of course, cross-sectoral, but we have to take the call as directing us in the agricultural, land and water sectors to bring that about. There was a little talk about it, but it is actually a very clear message to us what our head of state expects from us. Everyone must have water, everyone must have no fear of no food, there must maybe no hunger, and the economic opportunity that come about with having access to land, access to means of production must be equalized, must be provided in a fair, transparent and accountable manner. Now, if we agree that that is our objective, and I'm sure we do, there are a number of things that will be following. And of course, one would expect from every single manager, every single staff member, that collectively and individually, every single office, division, directorate, or whatever you can call us as the agricultural sector, must take stock, we must self-introspect to what extent we have fulfilled that message. To what extent have we brought about equality in economic opportunity? To what extent have we prevented hunger or food insecurity? To what extent didn't we manage to bring water to every household, potable water, or industry, or business? To what extent have we not managed to make land available as a means of production and asset to farmers, businesses, or homeowners in the urban setting? Our ministry, after restructuring by His Excellency President Geingob, for the first time has the opportunity to bring together and dovetail all the main components that are needed for a productive agricultural sector. Land and water are the basic commodities that you need over and above the human capacity to farm, to produce food or fiber. And that activity is called agriculture. So we have the basic components to bring that about, and it would be sad if we miss this opportunity, that in the first term where we have this dovetailed, this improved institutional arrangement, not to bring about improvements. And we reflect that in our vision, because that says, and I'm sure everyone remembers what our vision is, it is to be recognized as a leading institution and contributor to food self-sufficiency and security, equitable access to water and land resources for enhanced livelihoods by all. That is what we ourselves have agreed to be our mission. And by all purposes and intent, our vision sets out the envisioned future of equitable land ownership and the agricultural sector, a vivid description of what it will be like when the ministry and sector achieve this very vision. From a vision point of view, we are very much aligned to what the President has asked us to achieve. And as I said, the amalgamation of agriculture, water and land reform into a single mandate is a conscious policy intent to harness these interrelated but critical factors of production. The President has created an institution that is best suited now to bring about what he wants to see as an image of Namibia. And we thank him for this vision, and it is now our job to put meaning to the institutional framework that he has provided for us. We all know that water is a basic resource for every Namibian, household, industry, and a dependency input factor for the sustenance of life and economic activity. What have we achieved? I think we can be proud of our achievement. Namibia is one of very few countries where you can open the tap and the water that comes out of the tap is clean, potable. We are the leading country when it comes to rehabilitating used water. We are ahead of many when it comes to recharging depleted groundwater resources. We are for sure ahead of many through interlinking different bases and having an integrated water management system that creates much better water security. We have succeeded in reaching the SDG on water provision, even in rural areas. But still, there are deep pockets in our rural areas which struggle to get potable and fresh water. Our water is expensive, and we cannot secure it in all urban settings, especially in the informal settlements. Water provision is a problem. So we are good on the one hand, but we have set out a number of urgently to be met targets, especially in rural water supply and in the maintenance and upgrade of the bulk water supply that serves industry and urban settlements. So don't be ashamed of yourselves. Be proud of yourselves in the water sector. We did well, and we are doing well. Land is a productive resource critical for wealth creation, investment and production, for which access remains hitherto lopsided in the context of political economic judgment or measurement. We are still very skewed, and land has not been altogether made available to all that were robbed of it. Displaced and robbed of a livelihood and dignity. So that job is still ahead of us. We have started with a land reform plan. We have resettled many. I'm giving you the figures a little bit later. But we have now a set of resolutions in terms of the second land conference that we must work on. There are tough issues there. And if we want to give effect to His Excellence's re-image, I believe the most important thing that we must achieve, there are two. One, we must send the land reform in a direction that we regain the dignity that colonization took from our people. But it is not only a political goal. That regained dignity must then result in productive activities of that land that we have so redistributed. Because with dignity comes a satisfactory livelihood. If you are pushed into poverty, into utter poverty, that is undignifying in itself. So our way ahead in land reform is therefore twofold. Accelerate the implementation of the second land conference's resolutions, because that is what the nation asked us to do. That is how we all feel land reform should happen. Make that and do that in a very transparent and accountable manner, assure fairness, and assure that these assets that the state so provides are productively used, so that we, as the whole, as the nation, also gain from land reform. We want land to produce more. We want our economy to grow. We want more jobs that are land reform based to be created. So it is not only talk in political chambers, it is doing on the land that is important here. And of course, we cannot engage in productive agriculture without the secure access of both water and land. The access to land, the access to water must be secure. A farmer must know, if I invest in this land, in the water infrastructure, it is for a long time, it is forever almost, secure, it's mine. I can make the best out of it, and I can use all my means to bring about productive agriculture. We must have it secure. And therefore, the institutions like the Surveyor General, the Register of Deeds, the Valuer General, are so critical. These assets must be secure. We cannot have a system that invites question, is it my land or is it not? Is the allotment that we have made for resettlement, is it secure? Can I bargain on it? Can I invest on it? It must be secure. And last but not least, and I'm now talking to the staff, it is our job, once we have secured access to the assets, secured access to land, we must now deliver the service to support the farmers that we have created and that are in existence. Existing farmers just as well as new farmers. We must support them. And our institutions that we have created must support farmers. They must not turn into burdens to farmers. And that is our job. We are not farmers ourselves, although I know some of you are. But your farming exercise should not be the priority of your sitting here. Your serving your fellow farmers, if you are a farmer, is the priority, as a staff member of the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. We must serve the people. If we do that, we will achieve our targets. And we will create that image of a society that is not fearful of hunger, not fearful of thirst, not fearful of not having wealth and a dignified livelihood. Now, if we unpack this, and I'm trying to speed up, we must achieve national food self-sufficiency and thus food and nutrition security by unlocking the productive capacity in the agricultural sector. What immediately springs to mind is existing farmers. Do they get enough support to enhance their current production? Is the extensive farming style that we have in the livestock sector, is that the optimal utilization of that land or not? We believe it is not. We can, by intensifying farming practices, by mechanizing some of the issues, we can produce more out of the same hectareage of land. But we must create policies that are enhancing that are bringing that about, without destroying the land, without destroying the rangelands, without destroying the water resources that we are using. We have green schemes. We have, as people, as state, invested billions in green schemes. The leader of the opposition last week tweeted, and what I read, he says, only dilapidated things he sees, nothing is producing, the agricultural sector is collapsing. Now, of course, he wants to create his own image. My answer to that is, yes, some green schemes are not doing well. And it is a sad picture if you see it. But it's not all green schemes. We have recovered a number of green schemes which are actually doing exceptionally well. It is Musese, Mashare, Tunda, some other green schemes are doing okay. And by the way, the agricultural sector is not collapsing. The agriculture's GDP contribution for 2020 is now 9%, up from the 3.6 when we started the reform. And that is in spite of COVID and in spite of drought that we are recovering from. So the agricultural sector is not collapsing, it's the opposite, it's recovering. And it's contributing now 3 times as much as it did before. That is not the sign of a collapsing sector. It's a sign of a growing sector that is improving. But we can do much better. We must, of course, fix those green schemes that are not operating. We must get our new green scheme, Nekatal, in productive mode as quickly as possible. We know now what the mistakes are. The problems are that these green schemes faced. And by and large, they are not failures of infrastructure, not failures of people that are farming there. It was a wrong management model that we tried to use. It was a model of state farms managed from head office in Windhoek. And that turned out to be very unproductive. You who are farmers know that farming is done best on the farm. You must take your decisions on the farm and you must implement your decision there and then. If you plant late, you will have less yield. If you plant early, same thing, less yield. If you fertilize at the wrong time, less yield. If you can't fix your equipment, less yield. So everything you do wrong, every delay reflects in a smaller yield. And that's what we saw. It took AgriBizDev, who was the manager of these state farms, sometimes months to decide and give the instruction, plow now. It took them too long to bring the money, the resources that are needed to maintain, to plow, to do things to the farm managers. And all that, at the end, came to the result that green schemes actually became loss-making. Now, with the financial situation being difficult, they ran out of money, and some of these green schemes could not be maintained, and infrastructure collapsed. Now, that is so, but let's fix it. Cabinet has approved a new management model. It's our job to fix it, to implement that management model. And our job is do that this year. We don't have to wait for a rainy season. We don't have to wait for a winter season. It's irrigation. You can plant during winter and summer. There are always any subcrops available. So, no excuses where we are having time till the rainy season. No, we have no time. They must be implemented, sorted out, the models approved. And we must engage the private sector to get the necessary resources, know-how, markets into the play that these green schemes can do what they must do, and that is bring about food security, bring about an export-orientated agricultural sector. And again, the question is agriculture doing so badly overall? It is not. Namibia is the only country in Africa who can export beef to Europe, to the United States, to China, and to the whole of Africa. There's no other country on the continent that can do that. So we have market access to the best paying markets in the world, and we can pick and choose which commodity goes to which market. Very, very few farmers have that possibility from a market access point of view. The president of the Agricultural, or of the Farmers Union of Africa, talked in envy about Namibia. How good we are. We have of the best cattle farmers on the continent in Namibia, both communal and commercial. We have the best breeds. Everyone wants our breeds, our goats, our sheep. So we are doing well. But we have slipped. And we must pick it up and get the production back to where it was. Again, there are institutional arrangements that need to be fixed. But I don't think we should be caught up in this notion the agricultural sector is bad and collapsing. It is not. It is doing good. It is growing. And it has a solid foundation on which we can even do better. Very much like water. And let me go to land. Land is a difficult, tough issue. It's emotional. People are attached to their properties. People are attached to the fact that they were disowned, that they were robbed, that they were violently removed from their land, be it in the history. There were terrible things happening, like genocide, and the results of genocide that reflect on these emotions that people have when we talk about land. And it is land that is still topical because we have been politically liberated. There's no difference in rights politically whether you can vote and I cannot. That is done. But it is now the concrete thing, the livelihood stuff, that is actually to the core of being a human being. So our promise is we fix it through a land reform program. We had the first land conference, we resolved what we have to do. We started with that. We have, for the last year, acquired 10 farms. It's an equivalent to 41,000 hectares. And we paid 88.6 million for it. We have resettled 164 individuals or families on these farms. Now that is, on the face value, maybe not a big achievement, but you must remember it was, well, let me say, at the same time we could relieve farmers for land tax because we thought it is important that those that are productive for the farms should not be burdened by the state while we are going through financial crises. So we said, let you keep your pocket in your money in your pocket, rather invest it into farming than pay taxes to the state. But that deprivation of taxes, land taxes, reduced our ability to purchase farms because that feeds into the land acquisition fund. Nevertheless, we could buy 10 farms, allot them like it is. But when we assess what happens to resettlement farms, there is a lot of room for improvement. The infrastructure that we buy as going concerns rarely is kept as a going concern, rarely is allotted as a going concern. We must be looking into reviewing the rules, the criteria that we use when we pick people to be resettled, when we pick farms to be acquired. We must be very smart and innovative when we subdivide farms, that we do not subdivide it into non-productive units for some and productive units for others. We must be more alert to the problems that that one can avoid when not appropriately subdividing. So, and we must be, of course, sensitive to whom do we put on the land. If our goal is to regain dignity, we cannot but accelerate our rule-making, our criteria, to give effect to the 30-70 quota portion that the land conference, the second one, has agreed, saying that 70% of the resettled people must be from that area originally. But it is tough. And if you look who wants land, those are still 200,000 landless people, and we can resettle 164 in a year. That results into 164 being happy and 100,000, 199,000 and something being unhappy because they have not been resettled. You see, and I think that is a perception that we have to work with. We must remain in a position that we are believed when we tell the 199,000 that are not yet happy, that their day will come, and it will be soon, not the next generation, this generation, now. It takes more resources, which we don't have at the moment, but let's try to get as much done as possible when it comes to the implementation of the second land conferences. We have done reasonably okay with natural disasters. We have managed, I believe, that there were no incidences of starvation because of drought. We managed to get food to all corners of the country. There may have been malnutrition. It is still there. That's our job, to get food self-sufficiency spread into all corners of the country. But that is also not only a quantitative measure, it must be also a qualitative measure where the food that we distribute is nutritious, prevents stunting, prevents all these diseases that are caused because of malnutrition. We have international partners. We are not in isolation. And I believe we are doing reasonably well. On the waterfront, we have these basin organizations like Orasecom with the Orange River, the Kunene with regard to the Kunene Valley, the Kuvalai, and then we have the Zambezi River Valley. All these commissions have met. We are not in default with any one of them, but I mention them specifically because of the fact that our reliance, Namibia's reliance on the perennial rivers, that's the Kunene, the Kavango, the Kwando, the Zambezi, and the Orange, especially for the agricultural sector, is overwhelming. If we do not secure our water rights in a peaceful manner through these basin commodities, we will run into trouble. We are heavily, all our green schemes, except the ones at Hardap and Nekatau, are on rivers that are not all owned by us. We have to engage our neighbors through these SADC-based commissions and get our share of the water. And then use it, not only get the share and do nothing with it, we must use it for production. So far we are there and we are pushing as hard as we can. But so are others. And conflict about water resources is not far. We see what happens in Ethiopia and Egypt and Sudan. We see what happens in the Middle East. Water resources become more and more valuable, and we must treat our water resources as the most valuable resource in the country, because without water, that's it. Development stops, life stops. So please, whether you're in agriculture, whether you're on land, whether you're on water, water is our most valuable resource. And we must treat it as it. Don't waste it. We must be smart when we utilize it. And international cooperation is very much needed so that with our neighbors we can prevent conflict and ascertain our rights in a negotiated and peaceful manner. That is Namibia's take on how we should go about water. We have a new resource, and that's the ocean. We can desalinate. And we have a limitless resource of water on our doorstep. So the speeding up of desalination plants is another must, because that is the only alternative we have to the other resources that are shared resources. But desalination is, of course, an expensive process, and one must still transport the water to where you need it. Water is not always available at the soils, at the fertile soils that you need to irrigate. So there is an infrastructure development necessary. But I'm just saying, surface water, rivers and dams is only one source. We must develop the other sources too. That's the desalination and the groundwater source, like the Ohangwena aquifer. We must tackle it. We must tap it. We cannot see a situation where we have a population, a large population, on an aquifer, and they have no water. We must drill in a scientific way that we don't harm the aquifer, that we can use it sustainably, and make the water available. So, just to run through some of the big things that we want to achieve this year. We must unlock the potential of green schemes. That includes crop production, horticulture, dairy. We must, alongside with green schemes, bring up small-scale farmers. That green scheme must not be an isolated island. It must bring in small-scale farmers. They must actually be the farmers that run the green schemes at the end of the day, so that it is their livelihood that is improved. We must roll out and expeditiously implement NAMSIP. Mildred, I'm looking at you. NAMSIP is the program that wants to mechanize crop production, that wants to intensify crop production, that wants to, in simple words, produce more per hectarage of land by being smart in using technology, water, and land wisely. And I want to give you one example that we found that is worth emulating. In the Otjiwarongo Otavi area, where B2 Gold is, they bought a farm, which is not bad farming land, between Otjiwarongo and Grootfontein. You farmers know. Now, with one center pivot that they have developed on one borehole, they produce more value, more wealth than the whole 5,000 hectare farm did before they bought it. And it was a going concern. One technological intervention that uses land and water and technology wisely has made it possible to produce on one center pivot, which is about 10 hectare. Mesa, how much is that? It's a large center pivot. But let it be 10 hectare. You produce on 10 hectare what you can't produce on 5,000 hectare. It's that type of thing that we must do. I believe it is there where the youth must get involved. Because if you have 2 center pivots, you have the equivalent of 10,000 hectares already at close proximity. You can have many more jobs, many more livelihoods feeding from the center pivot. And NAMSIP is at the core of that. That mechanization, that intensifying agricultural production is at the core of it. We must accelerate the implementation of water sector support program. Comrade Ngurare, we traveled through areas in Daures, for instance, where we met an old lady. She came when we visited her village. She came and we greeted her and said, "We are here to bring water." You know what she said? There were many before saying the same. It is that must change. If we go to a community and say we will bring water, the water must be there in the foreseeable future. If we say there's water in 3 months, it must be there in 3 months. This thing that we promise and don't deliver erodes our integrity, erodes our trust that we should have from the community. And I believe that is, if we can't bring them water, we must tell them we can't bring you water, but here's the alternative. And that experience at that watering point, which by the way was a broken windmill and a dismantled borehole and broken infrastructure, very sad picture, is imprinted in my and Elia's head. We must do better in bringing water to desolate places. Comrade Langolo and Comrade Sipoko, we must not only resettle better, we must also promote productivity on resettlement farms. How many calls do Comrade Jacobi and I and Priska get every week, and the DM? I'm resettled, but I have no water, and the fences are down, and I can't even feed myself. It comes across as the curse of resettlement. You are pushed into poverty, whereas you actually got an asset that should enable you to make a decent livelihood. But somehow our connect to resettlement farmers through support-giving schemes has been not optimal. Now that we are one, we can and must improve that. We must help these farmers. We must give better extension services. We must see to it that they can repair their own things. We must see how the tenure system is the proper system that we have. Must the state be the landlord forever for land that was disowned? Or should we take that step and see, well, it's now yours? With conditions, of course, but it's now yours. I think these things need to be looked at. That we free ourselves from the obligations of a landlord, give that to the farmer, and rather concentrate to activities that the landless need. We must articulate a livestock policy to bring back livestock in and the whole value chain of the livestock into our economy. Dr. Albertina, Mitko, is the meat sector optimal? Don't answer, because I know the answer is no. We must deliver our services. Our veterinary services must go to farmers. And like we saw sad stories in water provision, on green schemes, unfortunately also we saw sad stories in veterinary services where the farmers had to bring a generator to bring power to the office that they can print a permit. It is not good enough. That is not proper if we deliver services. I know it's tough, and I'm thankful for the farmers to help us. But surely our officers must do the minimum in service provision to farmers. These farms must be inspected at least 4 times a year. We must know accurately information about veterinary status of farmers. We must do that in communal areas and in commercial areas. We must produce slaughter-ready cattle here instead of exporting the most raw form of livestock, that is calves, weaners. Our economy must benefit from the value added to the raw material, not retailers and other economies where the value is added and we buy the value added product to consume it here. We always brag and say, well, you know, Namibia has the best beef. Are we eating our own beef here? We should. And sometimes we are, and then it is proven it's the best beef. But I'm not so sure whether it's always the case. Because I see none of our abattoirs are actually functioning as vital entities, viable entities. None. No cattle. So, livestock, if it is the mainstay of our agricultural sector, bring it back to that. At the moment it's not. We have the issue about disease control, foot and mouth, other communicable diseases, but also control measures that are politically sensitive, like the red line, the cordon fence. Cabinet took the principal decision way back that we cannot have 2 economies, we cannot have 2 countries, we cannot have 2 agricultural sectors. The only way to resolve that is to have equal economic opportunities on both sides of the fence. If the fence is needed as a veterinary fence, it may not impede on economic opportunities of either side farmers. If it is needed for disease control, I think no one will argue. It must be there. But if it is a fence that is not ridding itself of its political history and its economic division, it's a bad fence. And it must be addressed. And that is our job. When we were in cabinet, the President looked at me and said, yes, that's your job now. As uneasy as it is, and as much as we agree that we haven't done it before, it's your job. So we must tackle it. And I need your help to do that. We all, from the Deputy Minister, from Jakupi, the whole management, row by row, all of us are in that boat. If we do not solve these problems, these inequality problems, be it because of historic relics like the fence, be it because of bad service provision, be it through bad policy, it is we who will suffer the consequences, you and me. So it's good for us if we solve these problems. And that is my appeal to you. Let's be Namibians. Let's think of the common good for all. And then do that. That's what good civil servants are actually so respected for. They do things for a relatively low salary that contributes to the common good. And we must do that in an honest, accountable manner. And that's my last paragraph. Everyone talks about corruption. Corruption index has dropped. If I stand in front of you, I cannot believe that Namibians are inherent bad people that steal and are corrupt. They're not. Namibians are brilliant people, good people, hard-working people that adhere to honesty. Our families say you must be honest. That's how we are brought up. It is just unfortunate that here and there are the ones that are breaking away out of that mold. But it is not Namibia. It is not Namibians. So in our activities, we must showcase that we are honest. We do things rule-based. If the rule says that, you do it. And you can be whoever. If you want to break that rule, not with us. Don't accept cheap favors. They haunt you. They will catch up with you. And it's where it starts. You know, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That goes well as long as the itch is the same. But when the itch changes, watch out. And it's not only the impact of the itch, but it's also the locality of the itch. Watch out. It changed, and then the one that scratched your back, all of a sudden is causing the itch. So, we should, in our administration, actually be ruthless when it comes to fighting corruption. And I believe we have a bunch of people that is able to do that is able to fully embrace the notion against corruption. So, I'm happy to have the staff meeting on the 31st of January, the first month of the year. I'm looking forward to a very exciting year. Rain must come. We will see where it drops. But don't despair. If it doesn't come, you can't do anything about it. You can just build up the resilience against drought. And that is part of our agricultural policy. We must build resilience against unforeseen. To look up in the sky and hope for rain cannot be a good policy only. But I'm excited to be in this great ministry that serves 70% of our population and whose GDP contribution is rightfully close to 10% now. We can still double it. So let's work together in this great country of ours, make it greater, make it nicer, and let's have more enjoyment out of the productive life we have in a free democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's be seated. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for the paper that you presented passionately. One could really see the love in which the paper was presented. And I hope all of us, we took note. The tone has been set on how we should move forward as a ministry, whether in 6 months, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now. For those, I think I know most of the directorates, they have already prepared their management plans for the year. Already, that paper of the minister, it gives directives, especially with regard to green schemes. Already there are things that you can take and put. The cabinet model has been approved already. That tells you what should be done on how we have to move forward. So let's look at your level, managers, study the speech of the minister, directives are there, and then let's take some and put in our new plans. If there are not things that we can achieve in a year, surely we can still put them in our strategic plan, the 5-year strategic plan, so that as we move forward, we see that in a year we have done this with regard to the green schemes. In a year we have done this in the research centers. Research centers also really need a critical look, Honorable Minister. I remember when we did a visit in Kietmanswap, they are just like villages, research centers. Villages. The cause, the intention and the intent of those research centers has completely been lost. So let's look into those areas. If all of us, we love what we do, if all of us, we love this country, if all of us, we have got that love to our people, then the directive is very clear. You also touched on issues related to, corruption. It also talks to our customer service charter. Remember, in our customer service charters, we have the core values. Words like integrity, professionalism. Those are our everyday notes in order for us, we must behave as staff members. Are we serving the public, or do we want to serve ourselves? With those few remarks, there was a journalist from Nampa who called me on Saturday. I hope she listened very well because it's being streamed. Her name is Haufiku. Is there somebody from Nampa? She asked a question with regard to the green scheme. She wanted to find out whether there is a plan for all the green schemes in the country. The minister touched on it very eloquently, so I hope she listened and she took note. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, once again. Now, let's go to the question and response sessions. Are we going to do that, Honorable? Are we ready? The staff, the media, are they part of it? Hello, are we together? Oh, you want a salary increment? Okay, let's engage. Let's make it civil. Let's make it honorable. Then the minister, the deputy minister, ED, technical directors, wherever possible, you will assist on the questions. Let's go. Second. Okay. Okay, if there are no questions. Yes, Honorable. Who is vaccinated? Okay. Now let's go. Questions? If there is nothing, we go to the next. Yes, sir. Okay, staffs, you are sorted, eh? There's one hand. Mention your name.
My name is Mwanyekange.
Yeah, boy.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just have a question to the Comrade Minister. When I follow his speech, being Minister of Land, I think it's also including our national boundary as well. But I haven't heard him touching anything, or maybe I miss it. And we have an issue with our boundaries, and it's part of our mandate as well. Can the minister maybe say something, because we have the situation like which is running in Zambezi, where some of our nationals were assassinated by the Botswana, and this is land is part of our ministry. What can the minister talk about this one? Because it's also an issue of concern, and perhaps some of our departments are entrusted to make sure they are working on those, boundaries. Thank you.
Okay. It's Ministry, Mr. Manyakenge. It's Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. Okay. Next question. Finito. Okay, we are done. Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Sakeus Ikela. I'm from the Namibian newspaper. I have several questions to ask on behalf of the staff, perhaps, maybe, and on behalf of the Namibian public. Yeah. I listened to the minister's statement attentively, and it was a good statement. The minister is talking about implementation. And perhaps maybe I just want to ask about the mandate that the ministry was given in 2018 at the land conference. Most of the problems that you mentioned there, the land conference has provided directives and solutions to them. For your ministry, of course, to implement and see that those problems are resolved. One of them is the issue of the red line. You mentioned that the red line must not be retained if it doesn't serve the purpose that it should be serving. But we understand also that, or we know that your ministry is one of the defendants or respondents in a case that is currently ongoing in the High Court. Perhaps maybe if you can briefly just explain to the public why your ministry is opposing that application to remove the red line. There were, of course, a lot of proposals that were made at the land conference, including the gradual removal of the red line. Several programs have been launched by your ministry, including the EDF 11 program. We want to understand how far has your ministry gone with those programs to remove the red line. Another issue maybe on the green schemes. I fail to understand why it seems like that the government is failing to just get one green scheme to operate and produce optimally. You said that there's a farm somewhere in I don't know. You said, I think in Grootfontein, that is farming on 10 hectares, but is producing more than what the government is producing on 5,000 hectares. Perhaps why are we failing just to produce and to manage effectively and sustainably one of the green schemes? And I spoke to you earlier, and then you said that there's a program or there's a framework that has been approved by Cabinet that would perhaps maybe come into effect during the course of this year. How far and how long can Namibians wait to see these green schemes that we established to ensure that the country is self-sustaining or sustains itself in terms of food production, being run effectively and efficiently? On the issue of cattle farming, you still maintain your position that in terms of agricultural output, Namibia is one of those countries, or is one of the countries on the continent that export meat to either the US and Europe and China. But we know, of course, this comes back to the red line, that more than 1.6 million cattle are that side of the red line, and those farmers are not benefiting. What has your ministry done to, of course, there's been, of course, a lot of proposals that were proposed over the years to ensure that those farmers get access to the market, and to ensure that they also form part of the export market. Perhaps maybe can you just brief the nation on the progress that you've made to implement some of those plans? And I cannot recite all the plans here. I'm sure you are aware of what I'm talking about. In terms of water, we have the Nekata Dam. You mentioned that your ministry is working to put in place a green scheme that side of Nekata Dam. But we have not seen any progress made on that front yet. When can that be operational, and how far and how long can we wait as a nation? In rural communities, we know, for example, Angwena region is one of the driest regions in the country, but the region sits on an aquifer that has been estimated to last for more than 400 years, or 400 years. Why has your ministry not perhaps maybe done something to ensure that these communities have water and can be able to harvest water from the green from the aquifer? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Minister. Maybe you can. Yeah.
I hope it doesn't end as a monologue with a Namibian. Let me tackle the question of the staff member on the boundary issue right front, and I think Comrade Surveyor General will help me with it. I think there are a number of issues here. It's not only, well, but with regard to the boundary, which is within our ambit, what we have done, and I think it is not always understood well, we have not redrawn any border. What we have done is we have started a process to agree with our neighbor to demarcate what in the agreements that we adhere to, the border agreements, would be the border. And I think it is that demarcation where we do have some some different understanding with the local community, which can be solved. So that is one problem. How do we demarcate the border, and is it really that what the agreement says the border should be? And in that part of the world, the Zambezi region, where the borders are in rivers that are meandering, it is not always very simple to demarcate the border. Now, the case where our citizens were murdered, I think that is a little bit a different case that doesn't fall in our ambit. But as you know, and as the President has said, we consider it as a crime that was committed, and that must be solved. These people must be brought to book. Now, unfortunately, we lost the first part, but that's not the end of it. We will carry on, and we believe that whatever crime, and this is a serious crime where 4 people just killed, it needs to be fully resolved within the law. And that is what we would support. Comrade Surveyor General, I'll give you the floor when we are done with the other questions, if you don't mind. Now to the Namibian mandate of the land conference and the red line. Well, the first thing I want to share with you, and you know it, of course, is that the whole set of resolutions from the second land conference were given to the high-level committee, which is constituted of all the representatives that participated in the land conference. And we have monthly meetings chaired by the Right Honourable Prime Minister, and the reports of how we implement the resolutions are published. You must have a copy. So if you ask how far we are in implementing the resolutions, it is in that report. I think there were is it 104 resolutions? 164 resolutions. We have broken them up in ongoing issues, in those that have been resolved, and in those that have legal difficulties. There are these three categories. We can give you the figures. There are some that are done, there are some that are ongoing, and there are some that cannot be implemented because we have legal impediments with them. But we are not leaving them there. We are having created a committee between us, Ministry of Justice, Office of the Prime Minister, and the Attorney General to discuss how we get around or solve these legal impediments that prevent us from implementing it. Now, with regard to the red line, first point I want to make is it's in court and it's sub judice. So to discuss why we defend it, you must wait for our affidavit. But suffice to say now is that there is not only the second land conference's resolution to address the issues around the line, there is also a more recent cabinet decision, a set of decisions how to address the red line, and we do not have any quarrel, and it is our government's policy from the beginning to say we have to erode and do away with the divisive nature of the red line. But when it is a veterinary line that serves a purpose as a disease control mechanism, it would be harmful to both north and south of the red line if we don't do it, if we ignore it. We would lose our ability to create a disease-free farming area. But we will explain our position in our affidavit, and I'm not actually able to give you the whole motivation why we defend. Now, your next question was about the fact that we had promised that the farming community in the northern areas will have access to markets. They in fact have. And I don't know whether it escaped your mind or your information. Northern beef is exported to South Africa, it's exported to other African countries, it's exported to China. And we do that through a commodity-based trade arrangement that we have implemented in the northern communal areas that help us to bridge the time we need to include areas of the north into the disease-free area. So the information that we do not export from the northern communal areas into foreign countries is wrong. We are. Now, commodity-based trade is an regime where you have the possibility to trade into the export market with beef, provided it adheres to a very strict regime. And the beef must come out of a specific zoned area. In Namibia, we have got basically 3 zones. We have the disease-free zone that is south of the Nkolan fence. We have the diseased zone where the disease is permanently prevalent. That's in the Zambezi and the Kavango, the eastern part of Kavango East. And then you have the zone that was it's a buffer zone. The disease is not prevalent, but there are risks that it can come in. That was the status that the whole northern area, except Zambezi and parts of eastern Kavango, had up to 2014. And 2014 Cabinet then took a decision that we must engage into a study that shows how to implement the removal of the fence. Implicitly it says remove the fence, but the Cabinet decision said we must do it cautiously, we must look how we do it and come with the modalities of we do it. But then unfortunately, 2015, there was an outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the northern communal areas, the 4 O's. It was spread. So the status of the area changed. And we couldn't proceed with that plan because the disease status of the area changed. We then implemented the commodity-based trade, and it is hinged on cattle that is produced in these areas, the fact that it must be vaccinated, the whole herd must be vaccinated twice a year. Whatever is sold must be quarantined for 30 days. It must be slaughtered in a specific manner. It must be chilled, and then it must be worked in a specific manner so that it then gets the certificate that it is not infectious and can be exported. Now, the infrastructure for that is in place. We have the quarantine camps, we have the cold storage, we have the abattoirs. But what happened then is something unforeseen. It was the worst drought ever. And the national herd, both north and south of the Colon Fence, halved. The northern farmers trekked their cattle into southern Angola. So at the moment we have no abattoir in the northern areas that is actually operating other than small municipal abattoirs. They don't have cattle to slaughter. And the commodity-based trade value chain comes to a standstill because you don't get raw material, you don't get meat to process, not even to slaughter. So we have problems, and we have another outbreak. Last year we had an outbreak that came right down to Oshikoto. So it is a complexity and multiplicity of factors that came together that made it very, very difficult to make the progress we wanted to move the actual fence. Now, lastly, I want to ask a question, to you. We are hooked up on a fence as if it is the only fence in the country. If I go out of Windhoek, every road is fenced. Every game farm is fenced. In the communal areas, we have fences, illegal and legal. So what is the hiccup about the fence? Are we not creating something in our imagination that is actually a normal farming practice? Fencing is, your yard is fenced, isn't it? Why do you fence it? To provide your neighbor an economic opportunity in your yard, or to leave him alone? Yeah, you see.
Some places have rules, some do not.
No, but I think it is not the fence. My point is, it is not the physical fence that we are talking about and the removal of it. It will always be there. That double fence next to the Windhoek-Okahanya road is a colon fence, is a veterinary colon fence, which at the moment is not, it's only maintained, but it is not used as a barrier to move cattle because we are disease-free. But it is a fence that is there. It's a veterinary colon fence. And there are a number of them in the country. That one being one of them. So the issue is not the fence. The issue is not the veterinary disease control issues. I think they are very legitimate and correct. It is the political, the socio-economic consequences of that battery borderline, which was legitimate, being misused for political reasons by our colonizers. The Germans created the fence. And basically what it said is, up to here is our political influence. There up north, we don't want to go there, let's leave them alone. And they justified it because of Rinderpest. The South Africans came, same argument. They wanted to compartmentalize the country and say, well, we change our political and economic policies in different ways. That was the divide and rule homeland policies. And they misused the battery fence for political purposes. That is the issue that we have to talk about. And that is the issue we are prepared to talk about. We have agreed. Those issues must be addressed. And as I said, we are trying. The export possibilities into China, into South Africa, into Africa, out of that is possible. In fact, if you eat a steak in Windhoek, it was a good chance that it is a steak from Katima abattoir. We chilled, we prepared them, we've brought them here to create a market for the farmers in the Zambezi region, and that it is consumed here. Now, green schemes, you said all of them are not functioning. And I don't agree with you. There are a number of them that are producing very well. I gave the names to you. You asked the same question then this morning, is why are the others not working? And I tried to explain in my statement that it is the management model that was the wrong model, and it therefore started to erode and came to a state where it collapsed. Some green schemes stopped functioning because also they ran out of money. Green schemes, the state green schemes were run by AgriBizDev. AgriBizDev was a state-owned enterprise registered as a Section 21 company. It was them who had the responsibility to run green schemes. And AgriBizDev as a commercial entity was transferred to the Ministry of Public Enterprises. When we saw that new arrangement, we approached Cabinet and said, we believe that arrangement is not correct. AgriBizDev is an entity that is at the core of agricultural activity. And green schemes should not be managed by a state-owned enterprise as if it is, a hands-off business where the decisions are taken at a head office without the immediate knowledge on the farm available. And Cabinet agreed. We convinced Cabinet that AgriBizDev is not appropriately enabled and constituted to run green schemes. So Cabinet, just before the end of last year, said, now we agree. Change the institutional arrangement. Green schemes are now with the Ministry of Agriculture. Go and solicit with the private sector how you can, as quickly as possible, get it going. And that was said because, we ran out of money. The fiscal position has worsened because of pandemic. If we had the money, no problem. We could fix it immediately, but we don't. And that's the same for Nakatal. Nakatal was a phased program. It included a dam. It started with a feasibility study where we looked whether hydrologically the dam is suitable and whether there are soils in the area that lend themselves to irrigation. Both came out positive, 2 studies. When that was confirmed, Cabinet decided, okay, go ahead with building the dam. That project was concluded. Unfortunately, the budget overshoots of the dam were immense. It was about 1.6 billion, more expensive than tendered. And these resources had to be tapped out of public resources, out of the budget. And it had bad ripple effects into the operation of other projects that the ministry had in the pipeline. Just to mention one, Vungu Vungu dairy farm was not completed because the money was taken to fund a legal obligation that we had under Neckartal. It's very unfortunate that it happened, but that's the factual situation. And this fiscal situation has not improved so that we can solve all the problems we have. That's why we have to rope in private sector, which is not a bad thing after all. We buy in technology, we buy in expertise, we buy efficiencies, and we can very quickly bring about progress. Example I can give, Musese was bankrupt. It was a leasehold agreement for that green scheme that NIDA had with Farmer. It went bankrupt. Not a single corn of maize produced. We intervened. We gave a short-term lease to a different owner that went into partnership with the current leaseholder, and they had a bumper harvest after 1 year, making profits of 3 million after having fixed all the equipment. And that is because of our intervention and the great effort by the farmer himself. The green scheme, small-scale farmers attached to that green scheme are doing fine. Bumper harvest because the farmer helped them. That's the model that is working. Mashare is a model green scheme that has a mixture of maize, corn, and blueberry production. It's highly viable, highly profitable. It is because of a new model being introduced in green schemes. Itunda is the same. There we have an asparagus planting plant, a factory that adds value to the plant, and then we have also corn and wheat production. The corn and wheat production is not doing too well, but the asparagus production is doing exceptionally well. So there are good examples that show that the model that we are now trying, or that we are now implementing, not trying, and that is to partner up with a private sector entity, oblige that entity to better work with the small-scale farmers, and we actually move out of the management, out of the running of the farm. We just get a lease fee. But we don't disown, we don't sell the land. That stays our property. That's the model that appears to work. We have these 3 examples that are doing very well. And as I said, it's a sad story that some of the others collapse. But that is to be corrected. And one cannot go and say if 3 or 4 green schemes collapse, the agricultural sector is collapsing. It's as if you say if a retailer gets bankrupt, the whole retail sector is collapsing. It's not so. Right. Cattle farming, exports. I thought I explained that. Neckartal is done. Gwena Aquifer. You know, I'm always surprised that there is a notion that nothing is happening. We have drilled quite a number of boreholes in the Gwena Aquifer. In fact, the town of Inanna is fully supplied by water out of the aquifer. There are about 12 boreholes close to that area which are connected and supply a number of communities with water out of the aquifer. In the next phase, we want to broaden that, and we want to create larger reservoirs that we can supply water from a reservoir to more than 1 or 2 communities, but to maybe 5 or so, that they are linked on a large reservoir where security is given. And that is the water infrastructure development program that I mentioned. So the Gwena Aquifer is now utilized as a second main source to supply the whole north with water. Ohangwena aquifer water can reach Oshakati because the two pipe networks are integrated. So we are not anymore only depending on Ruakana for Oshakati. We can now pump from the aquifer to Oshakati and in the whole net in the north. So there is a lot that has been happened. But because it's underground and you don't know where the boreholes are, maybe you don't believe that anything has happened. But there's a lot, and we have, during our visits, reported it. Yeah? Next time you must come with me, and then I can offer you a glass of water out of Ohangwena. Or you can come with me to Bethani, where we desalinate water, or to Grunau, or to Swakopmund. So on desalination we have made progress. We have now, I think, 4 desalination plants, now 5 in the country. One is the Orano one in Swakopmund, one is in Grunau, one is in Bethani, one is in America, and the last one is in Inanna. They are all desalination plants that desalinate water of different qualities into fresh water. So the notion that on the desalination side nothing has happened is also, I think, misunderstood. There's a lot of things happening, and it takes a lot of technical expertise we have, and that's so amazing how many young Namibians we have that run and design these desalination plants. We have a number of engineers that are fully involved in the design, running, and operating of these desalination plants, of which we have now 5. So we are growing them, and the big ones are still coming. That's the second one at Swakopmund. The site is already identified. It's just next to the Orano one. We will also supply Uis with desalinated water. We have surplus water at the moment available that can do that. The pipeline is being designed. So we are not doing too badly. But of course, not everything is gold that glitters. There are some problems that we have to solve. Can I give you mic?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, and thank you for the question by Mr. Monyekange. I believe it's a matter of a staff member of the ministry or of my directorate feeling that they are perhaps left out on the activities that we do as a directorate. We can assure you that all the programs of the ministry, the Honorable Minister is aware of, including the issue of boundary that you are mentioning. Basically, the issue of boundaries, especially on the Zambezi, is getting the attention that it deserved from Cabinet. There are certain resolutions that have been passed by Cabinet for us to implement as a ministry, and the Honorable Minister is well aware of those. And mind you, I will remind you that Mr. Monyekange, you are one of the key or prominent member of the team that just returned from Zambezi, where they went to pick up the islands. They went to do a community sensitization campaign where they actually went around and visiting the community. We are working on these programs, and perhaps the next speech of the Honorable Minister will feature our activity more to the satisfaction of the staff member. But on the matter of Namibian being killed, I think we are talking of issues of agriculture, water, and land reform. But then the issue of the killing of Namibian, that is an issue that is being dealt with by the security apparatus of the country. As we are all aware that there are court cases ongoing in Botswana, but then our government as well is attending to that. But I believe this is not the right platform to to address that, but it's been addressed at a larger stage by our government. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for your interaction with the media, the staff. I hope, Mr. Ikela, you are satisfied. Thank you so much for your questions once more. And thank you, SG, for that explanation. Mr. Monyakenge, you were in Zambezi. Now what happened? Okay. All right. Let's now take this opportunity. We are done with the questions and answers session, and we are also beyond time. Some staff members want to go and pick their kids from school. So let me take this opportunity once again, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, to invite you on the podium so that we can close this event.
Down. Oh, come on. No. Please sit down. But thank you anyway. Yeah. Director of Ceremonies, Mr. Matongela, I think we are meeting for the first time.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, at this occasion. The acting ED, deputy EDs, directors, deputy directors, staff members of the ministry, board chairs. Unfortunately, we don't have our board chairs of our SOEs, but I take recognition of Mr. Nathinge. You are most welcome from MITCO. Members of the media, of course, and ladies and gentlemen. I want to avoid the temptation of going into issues that have been addressed by the minister, either to repeat or to dilute what the minister has really said, but to limit myself to the mandate given to me, and that is of giving a vote of thanks. It is always good to appreciate people. And mine is to appreciate your coming or to respond to the minister's invitation. If you will appreciate or just remember, this is maybe the first ever meeting or general staff meeting that we are having. And there are reasons for that. Already from 2020, the whole of last year, we are experiencing this COVID pandemic. And it was just impossible to come together as we have come together today. But things are improving, and I really pray that they improve beyond this situation that we are experiencing now. And then we can maybe come together more often, not just to have a meeting at the beginning of the year, but maybe to have it, mid-year and towards the end of the year. It's always very important for us to interact. And that's why really I want to thank you all for taking the minister's invitation and to respond and to come and listen to the minister's statement. I also want to, on behalf of management, just to apologize that this is the best venue we could really find during this period of time. The venue that we always, sit there in the government park was already taken. I think we were a bit too late. But again, those of you who are here, please take the message that the minister has given to us to those who are not able to be here. Second, really is to appreciate and to thank the acting ED. She's just how many months, not even a month in her portfolio. And we can already see that positive things are moving.
And to organize this meeting at a very short notice, it is not always very easy. So I want to thank you, Comrade Acting ED, the Deputy EDs and Directors and Deputy Directors, and your staff for coming to this meeting. We realize that what the Minister has stated here, and really I could listen attentively, Minister has touched on all issues, and the issues of bread and butter. Colleagues, this ministry is very important and key, not only to us, those working in the ministry, but to the country and to the community out there. If you talk of food and if you talk of water and you talk of land, you are talking of issue of bread and butter. So therefore, colleagues, what the Minister has stated here, we should take it very seriously. Very, very, very seriously. And it's good that we are talking towards the end of, or at the end of January. Let's carry the torch. Agriculture is out there in the region, it's not in Windhoek. Unfortunately, there are limitations, resources limitations, but where possible, let's go out to the farmers. Let's go and talk to the farmers. Agriculture is with the farmers out there, not in Windhoek alone. So that was really my mandate. I want us to thank you, and I want us to redouble our efforts to implement the programs and projects within our departments and directorates. Resources are not always there. Please don't come and say, I could not implement. Dr. Shilongo, I could not do this because I don't have vehicles. I could not do this because I don't have these resources. I don't have money. Let's see how we can prioritize and reprioritize that we implement our mandates. That is very, very important. And commitment, dedication, and discipline are key, are very, very key for the effective and efficient implementation of our plans. Finally, the media. Please, thank you very much for always responding to our call and for reporting as it is. Mr. Ikela, report it as it is. Report it as the Minister has said it and not the way you want the public out there to hear. The Minister's statement is in black and white. Go and take the issues out there. And, but we really want to thank you. Without you, we cannot talk to the public. That is very important. In conclusion, I wish to thank all of you, and especially those who made it possible that we could have this meeting today. I can imagine there has been a committee that has been working, around the clock. We have made it. I think it was a success, and I want to thank that committee through you, Acting ED. So, colleagues, thank you very much, and I wish you a very productive year, and let's do what we can do best, and that is efficient implementation of our projects and programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister. On that score, let's all rise for the AU and Namibian anthems.
Let us dedicate ourselves to rise together.
Thank you so much. We have come to the end of this session. For your